Hey guys, welcome to Age of Wonders Planetfall unit unboxing. This video is going to be reviewing the Amazon Biomancer. So the Amazon Biomancer is a tier 2 specialist unit, and in my opinion it's one of the strongest specialist units in the game. It's excellent support functionality, both tactical and strategic setting, and it's pretty much useful throughout the whole game. Its skills are all pretty versatile, I would say, or its skill package is pretty versatile. You're almost always using the full plethora of the skills you have available here, and it synergizes really well with pretty much any Amazon army composition or strategy that you might want to try. So out of the box, it's a light unit, infantry class, comes with the standard movement, and has 3 shields as well. You'll see on the unit card up on the top right there, the biological recovery, that's the additional 6 hit points per turn for the army that it's in. Heal ability, always really useful. I love that ability on in your armies. It kind of saves you potentially having to pick that. I think there's a 4 skill point cost thing that you can apply to some commanders. That's all kind of a waste in my opinion when you have such a useful support unit like this one around. So let's look at the skills, and I've added these videos into these, or I should say these embedded videos into my unit unboxing reviews. Hopefully these will help give you guys an idea of how I use these units tactically in actual settings of combat or examples. So first off here we have Fire Bioblaster. It's an 8 biochemical damage, 5 range, repeating, 90% accurate, and it's affected by line of sight. So this is probably really the only forgettable skill that this unit has. All things considered, it's really not much of a great damage dealing choice most of the time. That can change if you've already applied the scan debuff to an enemy, which we'll talk about here in a second. But another thing to note here, so this weapon doesn't work like some of the other Amazon weapons. For example, the bows that some units like the Huntress or even a leader or a commander may have, because this Bioblaster, you're still going to have the cover penalty as you're seeing here in the video that's being demonstrated. So they're not as effective at killing units in cover, but they can still do damage, and it's not a completely throwaway ability. It's just nothing exceptional here. So second up is the Manipulate Sleep. So this is a single action, 5 range, 8 biochemical status resistance. Chance to put the target to sleep for 2 turns. If the sleep fails, the unit will be slowed down, less 50% movement for 2 turns. The target's got to be either biological, cyborg, or mineral. And the sleep debuff is excellent. The unit can't move or act. It's essentially useless. The sleep effect gets canceled if the unit takes damage. So one thing to keep in mind is you may want to use your sleep as kind of your last ability in your set of turns if you're not planning to be very deliberate with what damage you're doing. You don't want to accidentally wake up a unit or something that you just slept a turn or two or a unit or two before, right? That'd be kind of a waste. So it's just an excellent debuff. Also the fact that you can use it more than once per battle. It's got a 2-turn cooldown, but you can potentially use this more than once per battle. You can really even lock down another enemy unit, considering it's a 2-turn cooldown and it lasts for 2 turns. If you keep putting a unit to sleep, you can just lock it down that way and let the rest of the battle commence. One thing to note here is I'm kind of trying to demonstrate in this video. So it's helpful to use when you're planning your movement for your units. If you've got the skill highlighted that you'll see me doing right here, so I'm highlighting the sleep ability, you can see the targets that I'm going to have in advance of my movement if I've got the skill highlighted that I plan to use. So that's an easy way to make sure you're getting the range right. 5 range is kind of tricky. It's sort of that in between short, medium range skill ability. So a handy way to use that. The other thing you'll notice is where I'm putting the unit. So I'm setting the unit up in a spot where it's going to have cover, and primarily in this case the Biomancer is most vulnerable to being swarmed or being attacked by melee enemy units. So by using these broken up cars on my left flank here for this unit, there's really only so many spaces that an enemy is going to be able to swarm my Biomancer from this spot. And obviously I'm putting one of these units to sleep, so it's one less unit that I have to worry about. So next up is the manipulate mend option. This one's pretty straightforward. It heals the target biological or cyber unit for 25 hit points. Again, it's a range 5. You can only use this one once per combat, though, unlike the sleep. So there's a couple things to point out. Obviously, you can only use it once, so you kind of want to make sure that you're going to get the most value out of this. In this example, you can see I've kind of thrown my Lancer unit into the middle of the enemy and allowed it to take some damage on a previous turn, knowing full well that it wouldn't take enough damage to die, obviously, but that I'd then be able to heal it on a follow-up turn and getting almost the full value of that 25 hit points out of my heal here. I think I get 22. So again, the other thing, just like I mentioned with the sleep option, you don't want to put this unit in a vulnerable spot just to heal one of your other units, right? So as you saw in the previous video, I had stashed this unit kind of in a nice defensive position, knowing that I would move my Lancer up and then eventually heal it on this turn happening here. So you can start to think about things kind of tactically in that sense, and it's almost, I always kind of consider it an order of operations of how you want to use your units in tandem together with positioning and with skills and abilities, what makes sense, how are you going to get the most value out of all these things. And you'll find as you start to do that, that's where you really can start to crush the AI in the tactical combat setting pretty much all the time. But so this is a good, it's a good heal ability. Actually, I didn't note it on here, but the mend ability also reduces any, it clears any status effects, negative status effects as well. In this case, my Lancer doesn't have any of those yet, but if it did, if it were slowed down, for instance, or sleeping or whatever, any of those negative status debuffs, maybe it was blinded or whatever, this mend would also take care of that as well. So in some cases, that part of this ability is actually more useful than the 25 hit points, depending on what the debuff is. So again, keep in mind that you can only use this once per battle and make the most out of it when you do. The last active skill we can talk about here is the scan catalog skill. So this is what really turns this unit from a solid support class unit to the top tier one, I think. So what the skill is, it's a 100% accurate range 9 ability. It's on a 2-turn cooldown. What it's going to do is every unit of that type of unit that's targeted, it gets applied a scan debuff, which reduces the resistance to every damage type by 2. Now this doesn't stack, of course, that would be just totally crazy, but it's still an amazing ability. So first of all, there's no status check involved in whether or not you scan the target. It always works, which is great, obviously. Potentially, we can use this to scan more than one enemies because it's on a 2-turn cooldown. So we may end up scanning, in larger battles, we may end up scanning multiple enemies and getting even more value out of this skill. Lastly, this always has value because there's almost always a natural time to use the skill. Pretty much, you may see, just like I'm doing on this first turn here, getting into that position, or closer to the position you've seen in those earlier demonstrations, highlighting the skill, finding a place where I'll be able to target an enemy with it, and scanning them. Not a vulnerable position, but it's just kind of a natural first turn ability that you're going to use with this unit. Since you're not going to likely be sleeping any enemies or healing any of your allies, scanning things is a logical first thing to do, and obviously you're going to get the most value out of the debuff on the enemy that way as well. So again, this is just a monster unit. All these skills are useful, especially once you understand how to use them in tandem. It's just a beast of a unit. I don't think there's a better support class unit, in my opinion. Let's talk about the Biomancer progression. So it's not amazing, but we can talk about it. Just like all the other units in Tier 2, it's going to get the 6 health and 5 accuracy along the way between Novice, Veteran, Expert, and Prime. It also, at the Prime rank, you get Shrug Off, which adds 3 to all the status effect resistances that this unit might face. So basically it's harder with Shrug Off. It's going to have an easier time not getting enemy debuffs applied to it, which is nice, but not super necessary. The whole point though is you want to keep these guys alive, and if you level them up, obviously they have a little more staying power to survive and still provide that value to your late army compositions later in the game. It's totally worth doing. I think these units are excellent, and like I mentioned and hopefully demonstrated in those skill descriptions, these skills are all useful almost all the time. So keep these guys alive, and you'll find that your Amazon armies are going to really be fighting effectively pretty much throughout the game. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. The format's a little bit different. I hope the videos, the kind of embedded videos, are helpful for people to see as well. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below.